Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that the street where you were born no longer belongs to you. Not because you committed a crime. Not because you lost a war. But because a law says your skin makes you less worthy than your neighbor. That was life for millions of black South Africans in the 20th century. In the city of Johannesburg, a father could leave home before sunrise, carrying a passbook that determined where he was allowed to walk. A mother might spend hours traveling to work because she was forbidden from living near the family she served. Children attended separate schools, learned from different textbooks, and grew up knowing that opportunity itself had been divided by color. This system had a name, Apartheid. The word came from Afrikaans and simply meant apartness. But in practice, it became something far more devastating. It separated neighborhoods, jobs, schools, hospitals, beaches, and even the future people were allowed to dream about. By 1948, apartheid had become official government policy in South Africa. Laws were passed to decide where people could live, whom they could marry, what work they could do, and whether they could vote. A small white minority held political power, while the black majority lived under a system designed to keep that power out of reach. Yet this story is not only about oppression. It is also about resistance. Across South Africa, students marched, workers organized, churches spoke out, and activists risked prison to demand freedom. Among them was a young lawyer named Nelson Mandela. But the struggle would soon grow beyond South Africa's borders. Thousands of kilometers away, ordinary Africans in countries they had never visited began asking a simple question. If one African nation is chained, can the rest of Africa truly be free? That question would eventually draw Nigeria into one of the most important solidarity movements in modern African history. While South Africa was sinking deeper into apartheid, another country, nearly 5,000 kilometers away, was watching. It shared no common border. It had no territorial dispute. No economic obligation. No treaty demanding intervention. And yet, what happened in South Africa began to feel deeply personal. That country was Nigeria. In the 1960s, Nigeria was still a young nation. Freedom from British colonial rule was fresh. The scars of colonialism had not disappeared. Many Nigerians still remembered what it felt like to have outsiders decide their future, to control their economy, and to tell them who could govern their own land. Then came another painful chapter. A civil war that nearly tore the country apart. By the time the guns fell silent in 1970, Nigeria understood something few nations did. Freedom is never free. Unity is never guaranteed. Perhaps that is why, when Nigerians looked south, they didn't just see another country's struggle. They saw echoes of their own history. Across Africa, a powerful idea was beginning to take root. It wasn't simply politics. It wasn't diplomacy. It was identity. The belief that the freedom of one African nation could never be complete while another remained in chains. There was an old African saying, "When your neighbor's roof is on fire, your own house is already in danger." For many Nigerians, apartheid wasn't South Africa's problem. It was Africa's problem. And Africa, they believed, was one family. Then, something remarkable happened. Nigeria didn't stop at speeches. It acted. Under General Yakubu Gowon, Nigeria publicly condemned apartheid at a time when many governments around the world still preferred cautious diplomacy. When General Murtala Mohammed assumed power, Nigeria's voice became even bolder, insisting that African liberation could not wait. Then came General Olusegun Obasanjo, who transformed moral support into international action. Nigeria carried its message into the halls of the United Nations, the Commonwealth, and the Organization of African Unity. Its diplomats argued that apartheid was not merely South Africa's internal affair. It was a crime against humanity. Again and again, Nigeria urged the international community to isolate the apartheid government through sanctions, diplomatic pressure, and economic measures. The message was simple. If the regime would not change willingly, the world must refuse to do business as usual. But diplomacy was only one part of the story. Behind the speeches, behind the resolutions, behind the headlines, were ordinary people. Young freedom fighters escaping persecution, families forced into exile, students who had nowhere left to study, political leaders who could no longer safely return home. Many found open doors in Nigeria. Nigerian institutions helped provide scholarships for South African students whose education had been shattered by apartheid. Churches, civic organizations, universities, and government agencies rallied behind the cause of liberation. Nigeria became one of the African National Congress's most dependable partners, offering political recognition, humanitarian assistance, and a platform from which the movement could continue its struggle. Prominent ANC figures, including Oliver Tambo and Thabo Mbeki, visited Nigeria frequently, built enduring relationships with Nigerian leaders, and found one of the movement's strongest allies there. To countless South Africans living in exile, Nigeria was more than another country. It became a source of hope. What made this extraordinary was Nigeria's own situation. This wasn't a wealthy nation overflowing with resources. It was rebuilding after war. It faced economic challenges of its own. Its people had urgent needs at home. Yet millions of Nigerians accepted a remarkable idea: that helping South Africa was not charity. It was duty. Not because they expected repayment, but because they believed Africa's freedom was indivisible. Soon, that belief would spread far beyond government offices, into classrooms, into factories, into churches, into marketplaces, into the pockets of ordinary Nigerians, school children, teachers, civil servants, market women, dockworkers, people who had never set foot in Johannesburg or Soweto, people who would never meet Nelson Mandela. Yet somehow, they became part of South Africa's journey to freedom. Nigeria's support for South Africa was not the vision of one president, or one military ruler, or one political party. It became a national commitment that survived changes of government, economic hardship, and political uncertainty. When General Yakubu Gowon looked beyond Nigeria's borders, he saw a continent still struggling to free itself from the last chains of colonialism and racial domination. Nigeria had barely emerged from its own devastating civil war. The country needed rebuilding. Resources were scarce. There were countless reasons to focus inward. Yet Gowon's government made a different choice. Nigeria openly identified with the African National Congress and declared that apartheid was not simply South Africa's problem, it was Africa's unfinished battle. For Gowon, helping South Africa was not foreign policy. It was an African responsibility. If Gowon opened the door, Murtala Mohammed kicked it wide open. His speeches electrified Africa. At international forums, Nigeria stopped speaking cautiously. It spoke with moral certainty. Murtala believed Africa had waited long enough for justice. The era of politely asking for freedom was over. Nigeria would now demand it. Although his time in office lasted barely 7 months before his assassination, his fearless foreign policy transformed Nigeria into one of the loudest voices against apartheid on the world stage. When Olusegun Obasanjo succeeded Murtala Mohammed, many expected Nigeria's foreign policy to soften. Instead, it became stronger. The rhetoric was matched with action. Nigeria intensified diplomatic campaigns against apartheid, supported liberation movements financially, and worked relentlessly through the United Nations, the Commonwealth, and the Organization of African Unity to isolate Pretoria. This was no longer symbolic solidarity. It was strategic pressure. The goal was simple: make apartheid too expensive for the world to tolerate. Then, something remarkable happened. Nigeria returned to civilian rule. Many assumed the passion for African liberation belonged only to military governments. They were wrong. President Shehu Shagari carried the torch with equal conviction. His administration maintained financial assistance to Southern African liberation movements, strengthened Nigeria's backing of the ANC, and continued to push for comprehensive sanctions against the apartheid regime. Under Shagari, Nigeria's message never changed. Democracy at home would not weaken the fight for freedom abroad. When another military government came to power, the commitment continued. General Ibrahim Babangida inherited an economy under severe strain. Nigeria faced debt, structural adjustment, growing domestic challenges. Yet support for South Africa was never abandoned. His government continued funding anti-apartheid initiatives, expanded scholarships for Southern Africans, and used Nigeria's diplomatic influence to sustain international pressure on the apartheid regime during its final years. As negotiations between the ANC and the South African government slowly began, Nigeria remained one of the movement's most dependable allies. Then came one of history's great ironies. By the early 1990s, Nigeria itself was facing international criticism over human rights and democratic governance. Yet even during this difficult period, Nigeria's relationship with South Africa did not disappear. When Nelson Mandela was inaugurated as South Africa's first democratically elected president in 1994, the decades-long struggle against apartheid had finally reached its destination. The friendship that Nigeria had built with the ANC during the years of exile now evolved into a relationship between two sovereign African democracies, though not without moments of tension in the years that followed. History is rarely simple. But one fact remained beyond dispute. For more than 3 decades, governments in Lagos and later Abuja changed. Military rulers became civilians. Presidents came and went. Economies rose and fell. Yet through every transition, Nigeria's commitment to South Africa's freedom endured. But government alone did not defeat apartheid. Diplomats could pass resolutions. Presidents could make speeches. Generals could sign agreements. None of it would have mattered without ordinary people. Because while Nigeria's leaders were fighting in conference halls, millions of Nigerians were fighting with something even more powerful: their compassion. And that is perhaps the most forgotten chapter of this extraordinary story. Apartheid endured for 46 years. During those decades, Nigeria changed governments again and again, military became civilian, presidents succeeded generals, economies rose and struggled. Yet through every transition, one conviction remained astonishingly consistent: South Africa's freedom was Africa's responsibility. In a continent often divided by politics, this became one cause that united Nigeria. History often celebrates the leaders whose names appear in textbooks. But behind every diplomatic victory stood millions of ordinary people whose compassion quietly changed the course of history. In our next episode, we uncover perhaps the most emotionally powerful chapter of this remarkable story. How school children, market women, teachers, civil servants, dock workers, churches, musicians, universities, and everyday Nigerians voluntarily gave their own money to help strangers thousands of kilometers away fight for freedom. It is one of the most inspiring acts of continental solidarity ever witnessed in modern African history. Until then, remember, nations are remembered not only for the wars they fight, but for the causes they choose to defend. If this documentary helped you discover a forgotten chapter of African history, subscribe for more meticulously researched documentaries that uncover the remarkable stories history almost forgot. Share this video with someone who believes Africa's greatest stories deserve to be told. If you're discovering something new today, consider subscribing and joining us as we uncover the remarkable stories that shaped Africa and the world. Because history remembered is wisdom preserved.